January 17th, 2003, 20 years ago today, That's So Raven premiered on Disney Channel for the first time ever. We all remember our favorite teen psychic Raven Baxter, her best friends Eddie Thomas and Chelsea Daniels, her mischievous brother Corey, and her parents Victor and Tanya. That's So Raven was a show that was very popular in my age group. I think everyone that I knew watched it, and it was definitely one of my favorite Disney Channel shows. So, to celebrate the show's 20th anniversary, I decided to look back on it and pick out 10 of my favorite That's So Raven episodes. Like all other TV show retrospectives I've done, this isn't a countdown, I'm not ranking them. I'm just thinking of a few episodes that I really like. And it wasn't easy to pick just 10 because I've watched the entire series. So let's get started with number 1, Artbreaker. It starts with Raven, Eddie, and Chelsea in their art class, ready to show their art teacher their projects. At first, Raven thinks that a large pile of trash is on Chelsea's desk, but apparently it's Chelsea's art project. She describes it as a message about how our world has become a giant dump for our consumer culture. Raven lies and says that she likes it, but Chelsea can tell that it's a lie because of the sound of her voice. However, their art teacher, Miss Petuto, played by pop singer Cyndi Lauper, understands the message and encourages Chelsea to continue with her art skills. Chelsea gets inspired by Raven to make a sculpture. Raven as an actual raven. But Raven hates it and upsets Chelsea. After Chelsea leaves, Raven has a vision that she accidentally backs into the statue and breaks it, which ends up happening immediately after. Raven and Eddie try to figure out what to do. Raven says she knows I hate it, she's gonna think I broke it on purpose. So to take its place, Raven disguises herself as the statue. And I have to say, it was really spot on. So she goes to an art gallery, which is where Chelsea put the statue in, but because she's covered in clay, which I don't know how the hell she managed to do that to herself, she can't move her arms. So she has Eddie bring her food. There's a really funny moment where Eddie gives her noodles and she asks him to put it in her mouth. And so he says, "Early bird gets the worm." When Eddie feeds her something spicy, she requests water and tries really hard not to freak out from the spice. Chelsea shows Miss Petuto and the judge, who had apparently dated Miss Petuto before the events of the episode, she shows them the sculpture and they notice it's starting to sweat and tear up. Miss Petuto says to Chelsea, "Let your art speak for itself." To which Raven screams, "Water!" Raven explains what happened to Chelsea, expecting her to be upset by it, but Chelsea actually is touched by it. In the B-plot of this episode, Sugar is banned from Corey's school. After Tanya sees Victor and Corey's poor eating habits, she decides to do the same in their home. When Tanya tells Corey that he'll save money, Corey gets an idea. With the help of his buddy William, they make their own sodas and sell them at school in milk cartons. Eventually, Victor finds out when he tastes grape soda in a milk carton. And Tanya says she's going to call William's mother, but she uses a bar of chocolate as her cell phone. So yeah, clearly banning sugar didn't work. Number 2, Country Cousins. This was a 1-hour episode where Raven and Chelsea went to the farm to visit Raven's cousins. It begins with the family throwing crap from the attic away, and they find an old picture of Raven with her cousin Betty Jane. Victor and Tanya explain that after their last visit to their farm, that family treated the Baxters like complete strangers. Raven has a vision of Betty Jane saying how excited she's been to see Raven again and decides to go and visit her cousins Betty Jane, Delroy, Baby G, Vicky, and Auntie Faye. And actually, Delroy, Auntie Faye, and Baby G were all played by Raven herself. As soon as Raven and Chelsea get there, things go wrong. Raven's interest in fashion design shows in this episode when she tries to help Betty Jane milk a cow, but she gets a bit grossed out by it and causes the milk to go flying. The bucket even lands on Betty Jane. Betty Jane tells Raven, "I've been waiting all these years to see you again," like in her vision. "And now I can't wait for you to leave!" Finally, Raven finds out the reason that the family has been ignoring the Baxters in the first place. Their gravy boat went missing years ago, and Victor is supposedly the one who stole it. Raven asks Victor, who says that he did not take the gravy boat. Raven attempts to solve the mystery herself and then discovers that she and Betty Jane were in fact the ones who took the gravy boat. They dug it into the ground playing a game called Buried Treasure, which they played when they were kids. They manage to find it and return it to the family, and everyone reconciles. Meanwhile, Eddie's parents are out of town, so the Baxters let Eddie stay with them, where he forms a brotherly bond with Corey. Corey plans on calling the health club to see if they have any dumbbells. Eddie says, yeah, and then you say, are they as dumb as you? But when Victor and Tanya come in, Eddie and Corey tell them that they're calling the library to see if they're still open. According to Corey, they're still open and they have lots of books. When Victor and Tanya go out for the night, Corey decides to go to the arcade, but Eddie doesn't really want to, so Corey goes with his friends and spends pretty much the entire night there. When Victor and Tanya come home, Eddie tells them that Corey is upstairs sleeping, so Victor and Tanya go upstairs to check on Corey. Eddie goes in Corey's bed pretending to be him, and Victor kisses him goodnight, not knowing he's kissing Eddie. Gross. Corey tries to sneak out again the next day and asks Eddie to cover for him, but he refuses because Victor and Tanya trust Eddie. But then Corey gets caught and they explain what happened. Victor says to Tanya, it sure is hard and we have to punish them. Eddie's not even their kid. Number 3, Blue in the Face. Raven's longtime boyfriend on the show, Devon, invites her to see the band Blue Rain in concert. I think Blue Rain is a band that exists in their universe. Anyway. However, her science teacher, Mr. Holloway, tells her parents that she's been badly distracted in class because of her relationship with Devon. So Tanya tells Raven that she needs to focus more on her schoolwork instead of Devon. Mr. Holloway assigns the class a big science project. He says to them, a little originality please, no papier-mâché volcanoes. If I see one more of those things, I'll erupt myself. But Raven makes one anyway, and Eddie and Chelsea tell her that Mr. Holloway didn't want to see them. Interestingly enough, when I took high school science, no one ever made volcanoes. But I do remember doing a project about volcanoes. Anyway, Corey and William are trying to get this girl at school named Madison to notice them, but Madison finds William too nerdy. William's more of a science geek, so Raven offers to make William cool if he will help her with her science project. William makes this rainbow in a bottle type thing, but Raven totally forgets about William's cool makeover because, well, need I say more? So Corey and William take the paper version of the science project and put it into Victor's paper shredder. At the beginning of the episode, he was having a really good time shredding paper. He tells Corey and William, we shred for many reasons. We shred for safety, security, but most importantly, we shred because it's really, really fun! Raven works hard all night to put the project together and finally manages to without any sleep. She manages to fall asleep for only a second and wakes up when her alarm clock rings, and when she makes it to the kitchen, she falls asleep again. Victor tries to get her prepared, and he picks up the project and asks, is this trash? And Raven very tiredly responds, yeah. And Victor shreds it. Well, that sure as hell woke Raven up more. Victor says that he will fix it, bring it to her at school, and then get help for his shredding problem. Mr. Holloway calls on Raven to present her science project, but it isn't ready yet. So Raven stalls and does a little show for her class. I love the line, what did the beaker say to the test tube? Mr. Holloway says, getting an F. Raven tries to do the project herself, but the chemicals she puts in produce a chemical reaction. Mr. Holloway has the class evacuate before it explodes, but Raven goes back for her lunch. That's when Victor comes in with the project, and it explodes. Honestly, this whole thing could have been avoided if Raven just said, I'm sorry, my science project isn't ready yet. I guess Mr. Holloway must have been a really, really strict teacher. But anyway, the chemical reaction makes Raven and Victor's faces blue. And because of this, Raven is grounded and, as you can expect, not allowed to go to the concert. So to make up for it, Devon paints his face blue and holds a radio outside of Raven's house playing music. Kinda like Say Anything. Number 4, Mother Dearest. In my retrospective on holiday TV episodes, I mentioned that Raven's teacher, Mr. Petrocelli, has a tendency to call out students who don't know the answers to questions. God, we've all had teachers like that. So Raven tells him off for it. She says, you have more fun embarrassing us than teaching us. The class backs away and Raven suggests that they toss it around after school. Mr. Petrocelli says, yeah, let's toss it around after school. And hey, let's toss in your parents too. When I was a kid, I didn't realize that that meant that Raven was in with Petrocelli. So Raven's anxious about it and goes to Corey, who, with pay, gives her his tip, the 3 C's. Cuddle, compliment, and cry. But Corey's one to talk because he got in trouble at school too. When Victor and Tanya scold him for it, Corey tries this method, but Tanya's too smart for him. When Corey gets sent to his room and Raven gets her money back, she says to Victor and Tanya, "Corey's just a kid and kids make mistakes." Victor and Tanya see the new Raven. Little do they know what happened to her at school. Impressed by the new Raven, they give her a cell phone. Raven decides to do the parent-teacher conference by herself, but has a vision that Mr. Petrocelli wants to see her mother. So Raven disguises herself as her mom in an outfit that looks absolutely nothing like her mom, and goes back and forth between being her apparent mom and herself, to the point where Mr. Petrocelli just gives up. So yeah, Raven's gotten away with it this far, but then she has another vision. Victor and Tanya coming into the classroom and say, "We're looking for a Mr. Petrocelli, we're Raven Baxter's parents." So Raven goes into the classroom and pretends that she's Ms. Petrocelli when her parents come in. Raven says, as Ms. Petrocelli, that she feels as if her parents expect her to be perfect all the time. But Victor and Tanya assure her, without acknowledging that it's Raven, that they want her to feel as if she can come to them no matter what. That's when Raven reveals that she's in disguise, but Victor and Tanya already knew. As a result, Raven is grounded for back-talking Petrocelli, and probably for that horrible costume of her mother. There's a really funny moment in this episode that revolves around the B-plot. Eddie has his locker invaded by another student who previously had that locker, and another locker, and another locker, and steals them back. All students try to get their lockers back, but another kid shows them why that's not a good idea. But Raven, on the other hand, in her disguise, tells the bully that she's Eddie's mother, and hits him with her purse, telling him to screw off. Eddie and the other kids talk to the bully and ask for their lockers back, but before he can beat them up, in comes Mad Mama, and the bully chickens out. Number 5, Too Much Pressure. Raven and Chelsea's favorite singer, Pressure, a parody of Usher. I'm an Usher fan. Their favorite singer, Pressure, is in town shooting a music video, and the girls try to sneak into the dance studio he's rehearsing at to try to be in the music video. But the warden immediately tells them to screw off. Also, if the warden looks familiar, you might know her best as Helen from Drake and Josh. The warden will only allow people who are either in dance class or know people in dance class, and also have $150, in for the Pressure video. Corey has exactly that amount, so she scams Corey into taking the dance class. While Raven and Chelsea are happy to be in the same room as Pressure, Corey learns that the dance class he is taking is professional yak dancing, whatever the hell that is. So Chelsea and Raven manage to get noticed by Pressure, but get kicked out for the way that they dance. But then Raven has a vision that she is in Pressure's video, and now they know that they can come back with Corey taking the dance class, but Corey wants to quit because of the outfit. Victor doesn't let him. "I don't care if they're making you wear a dress!" Or pretty close to a dress, honestly. The next day, Chelsea lets slip that the only reason that Corey is taking the dance class is so that Raven could get in to meet Pressure. Needless to say, Corey's not pleased by that and runs into Pressure later on. He explains his problem to Pressure, and Pressure says that he has a sister too. Corey asks, "Does she make your life miserable?" Pressure says, "Now she drives my limo." Corey tells Pressure that he wishes that he could get his sister back, which gives Pressure an idea for the music video. He allows Corey to choose someone to be the star of the video, and he chooses Raven. Raven is thrilled, but the video makes her look silly. Payback. Number 6, Point of No Return. This kind of shows what a teenager Raven is. When she comes home, she's on the phone while Victor is trying to get her attention. Raven tells Victor that her teacher gave her a note to the class explaining that they will need a $100 calculator. Seriously, they didn't have it at the school? Victor gives Raven the money, so Raven, Eddie, and Chelsea head to the mall, where Raven finds a dress to wear for a party that is $95. So she devises a little scheme. Buy the dress, return it the next day, and then buy the calculator. So that's what she does. But she gets a lipstick stain on it, so she has to wash it, but it shrinks in the wash. So where does she go from there? She manages to get it looking back the way it was before, and makes it to the mall, but it just so happens that Victor and Corey are also there on their annual father-son shopping trip, which Corey finds embarrassing. So Raven has to find a way to return the dress without getting noticed by her dad. But the clerk in the shop, Frank, has had numerous run-ins with Raven. Every time there's a run-in with Frank and Raven, Raven's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Frank." He goes, "It's pronounced Frank." Also, you might recognize the actor who played Frank from many different things. He was in a bunch of movies and TV shows. Eventually, she does manage to talk him into letting her return it, but she can't find the receipt. She manages to, but it's shrunk in the wash. That's when Raven accidentally reveals what happened. Victor is next in line, and he asks Raven, "What are you doing here?" And the clerk tells him everything. So Raven's punishment? Washing dishes until the time she finishes college. Number 7, Adventures in Boss Sitting. To backtrack a little bit, Raven gets an internship working with her fashion idol, Donna Cabana. Raven doesn't really get along well with Donna's assistant, Tiffany. Donna comes into the office and tells Tiffany to leave, asking Raven to take over her desk. At first, Raven thinks that she's being promoted and that Tiffany's getting fired, but as it turns out, Donna's sending Tiffany on a business trip and Raven is only filling in temporarily. While at the desk, Raven gets a call from Devon. At this point, Devon has moved away and is back in town, and he invites Raven to have dinner with him at a place called the Purple Lobster. Donna comes in on the phone call as Raven is acting all flirty with Devon, calling him "so Devonderful." Raven says that she's talking to a Mr. Devonderful, but Donna's no idiot and knows that she's taking a personal phone call. She explains to Raven, "This is a business where we conduct ourselves professionally with dignity." She says as she gets a phone call from her boyfriend, Teddy Weddy, and dances around in excitement. So Raven commits to Donna 24/7 as her assistant. Donna gives Raven a very loud pager in case she needs her, but as Donna leaves, Raven has a vision that Devon breaks up with her. So she tells Eddie and Chelsea, who both are so bloody hungry. The doorbell rings, and Raven thinks it's Devon, but it's actually Donna, who is in tears explaining that Teddy broke up with her and she doesn't want to be alone. She asks Raven if she's doing anything tonight, and before Raven can explain that she has a date, Donna just tells Raven that she needs her. So Raven has Chelsea and Eddie keep an eye on Donna as Devon finally arrives. But almost instantly, the pager goes off. Raven tells Devon that it's her toy oven and that whatever she made in it is ready. Donna has her dog Coco trying to fend off Chelsea and Eddie, but she's a lot more comfortable with them after Raven introduces them to Donna. This goes on and on for quite a while, Donna paging Raven because she made a commitment 24/7 and Raven explaining to Devon that it's her toy oven. So because Raven's kind of in a trap, she takes Donna's picnic basket and suggests that she and Devon have a picnic at home. Corey is also having some problems with love. Prior to the events of the episode, he had a girlfriend named Cindy, but they decided to see other people now that they are going to different schools. So Corey has a new girlfriend named Brittany. He wants to take Brittany to a movie, preferably something that has a lot of stuff blowing up in it, but Eddie suggests a romantic film. Brittany and Corey end up going to that, but they run into Cindy and her new boyfriend there. Watching the movie, Corey sees him and Cindy instead of the actual actors in the movie, causing him to get emotional. Brittany breaks up with Corey for this, disappointed that something didn't blow up. Eventually, Donna and Devon meet, and when Raven tries to explain her case, the vision comes true. Donna says to Raven, "You really should keep your professional and personal life separate," even though Donna barged into the house. Raven tells Donna off for this, and eventually, Donna apologizes. But in the end, Devon and Raven get back together, Cindy and Corey get back together, and Donna and Teddy get back together. Finally, Tiffany comes back and Raven tells her what happened. According to Tiffany, Donna and Teddy have a constant on-again, off-again relationship. Little does Tiffany know that Raven set Donna's yogurt down on her office chair. Raven gets back at Tiffany by having her sit on it. Number 8, Driven to Insanity. Starts with Raven having a vision of Victor and Tanya saying, "No, no, and no," seemingly out of nowhere. Then Raven gets asked out on a date by an older boy named Matthew. Raven lies to Matthew that they are the same age and accepts the date. That's when the vision comes true. But then she has another vision. Tanya and Victor are going to be going out. So Raven calls Matthew and accepts the date. She has Chelsea and Eddie babysit Corey, which proves to be really challenging because he keeps flirting with Chelsea and playing pranks on Eddie. Meanwhile, on the date, Raven learns 2 things. 1, that Matthew is absolutely disgusting and unprofessional. 2, her parents are at the same restaurant. And then Raven has another vision. Tanya calls the house and Chelsea answers the phone. So Raven calls the house, and before she can tell Chelsea not to answer the phone, the vision comes true. Tanya, you don't actually hear the end of the conversation, but Tanya asks Chelsea where Raven is, and Chelsea says, "In the bathroom." Typical response. Chelsea goes back to Raven on the other line and says, "She wants you to know that you look very nice tonight." Now, how does she know that? Tanya is right behind Raven. Raven explains what happened to Tanya, but also talks about how she feels with Victor and Tanya never listening to her if it's not what they want to hear. Tanya just decides to brush it off. Yeah, parents just don't understand. Actually, speaking of that, if you know what that's a reference to, there was one episode of That's So Raven that featured James Avery, who played Uncle Phil on The Fresh Prince, as this billionaire entrepreneur who everyone wants to give their ideas to. Anyway, Tanya and Victor discuss Raven's punishment. Raven has to drive home with Matthew, and they order them a big meal. Raven isn't comfortable with this and asks that they drive her home. But before they do, they talk about Raven lying to them, but also the fact that they didn't take the time to listen to her. As it turns out, she was never going to ride home with Matthew. It was just to scare her. After Matthew is done eating, Victor says, "It was nice meeting you. Don't bother getting up." Number 9, leave it to Diva. Raven comes down with what's called a psychic cold and is able to read minds. This comes in handy when Victor announces that his mother is coming to visit, and Tanya thinks to herself, "Oh great, an uninvited visitor." Apparently Victor's mother, Loretta, is very judgmental about those who are psychic, including Tanya's mother. It runs in the family. So Raven being psychic has been kept from Loretta all these years. But now with Raven being able to read minds, they have to work even harder to keep it that way. As soon as Loretta arrives, she tells Raven, "I hear you have a cold." Raven can hear Loretta thinking, "No wonder, Tanya does keep a drafty house." Like most TV grandmothers do right on arrival, she brings gifts for her grandchildren. Raven's is a membership to the White Glove Society, an organization that Loretta is a member of and invites the members of the group to the house for a tea party. But Raven has a vision of everyone screaming and running for some reason. So Raven pretends that she's even sicker and tells Loretta that she can't make the event. But Loretta thinks, "I'll never tell her how she broke my heart." Raven feels guilty about that and decides to go ahead with the meeting. Meanwhile, Eddie and Chelsea are watching Corey's pet rat Lionel while Loretta is staying over. But why the two of them though? Anyways, it doesn't last long and they bring Lionel back. But he gets loose as the White Glove Society is there. The meeting with the organization doesn't really go too well. It starts with one lady named Penelope who tells Raven that Loretta talks a lot about Raven's success. But inside her head, she's thinking that Loretta goes on too much about Raven and she's getting tired of hearing about it. As Raven is trying to avoid her vision coming true, Lionel finds his way to the tea party and scares the crap out of everyone, causing Raven's vision to come true. There's a line in the scene where Raven spots Lionel and shouts his name. Penelope says, "Vinyl? I hope that's not coming back." Funny enough, my sister got a record player for Christmas and we've been collecting vinyls old and new. Raven finally explains to Loretta that she is a psychic, and Loretta thinks, "Great, another woohoo." Raven stands up for herself on that comment and then explains that she can now read minds. That's when Victor and Tanya tell Loretta off for being judgmental about those who are psychic. Loretta finally realizes this and decides that she's done with the White Glove Society. And with Penelope. Number 10, my big fat pizza party. Alright, last one. Oddly enough, I asked a few friends what their favorite Raven episodes were as I was preparing for this, and some of them said this one, so I think that this is a good one to finish with. Raven and Chelsea want to go on a ski trip with their school, and rather than weasel money out of Victor, because we all know how well that went when Raven needed a calculator, they ask Victor for jobs at his restaurant, The Chill Grill. Chelsea prefers her waitress name to be Flo, because she wants that to be her princess name. So Victor gives Raven and Flo the jobs, but it doesn't take him very long to regret it. Raven ditches her responsibilities to help Eddie's relationship with his girlfriend Andrea, and she asks one of the customers in a party of people to write down the orders for everyone instead of her while she gets a hold of Andrea. Flo, on the other hand, is a vegetarian, and when a customer orders a chicken sandwich, she tries to make the customer feel guilty for eating a formerly living animal, causing the customer to leave. Raven and Flo try to get Eddie and Andrea back together, which works when Eddie promises to stop clowning around. But while Raven and Flo are pretty much doing the same thing, Victor is trying to get everyone their food. Frustrated, Victor rings the service bell closer and closer to Raven and Flo and tells them that he's been getting a lot of customer complaints due to Raven and Flo's poor service. Raven calls everyone tattletales and all of the customers leave. Because of this, Victor fires Raven and Flo. Raven tries to ask for a second chance for both herself and Chelsea, but Victor refuses until Raven has a vision that Victor thanks Raven for bringing in a lot of customers to the restaurant. That's when he decides to give them a second chance, and Chelsea says to Raven, "If I was your dad, I would never in a million years," before Raven shuts her up. Don't give Victor any ideas! So Raven and Flo are both rehired at the Chill Grill, and both individually booked private parties that night. Chelsea booked a bike club, and Raven booked a knitting club. Wonder if Loretta's a member of that too. Victor also has a party planned for the restaurant. William's birthday party. Only problem is, Victor's not there. He took off to go and pick up the clown, much to Corey's dismay. Meanwhile, the Knitting Society arrives and wonders why there is a big sign that says Happy Birthday William on it, and why the name tags on the table aren't theirs. That's when the rest of William's party guests arrive, and Flo's bikers arrive. Turns out to be not the kind of bikers she thought it was. Everyone starts arguing about whose party it is, as Victor calls to let Raven know that he picked up the clown, but his car broke down and he's going to be delayed, while he's being harassed by Yutzo the clown. Little does Victor know that William's party isn't the only party happening at the restaurant. Victor tells Raven to let the assistant chef Maurice know to start cooking the pizza without him. So that basically means that Maurice has to make more than one pizza. When Raven delivers that message to Maurice, he walks out of the restaurant, leaving Raven and Flo by themselves to handle the parties. Without food, everyone threatens to leave, and Raven convinces them to stay, but she doesn't have a plan. Raven and Flo go to the back of the restaurant to talk, where they stumble upon 2 pairs of skis. They were initially a gift from Victor for their ski trip that he was going to give them on their first day, until they got fired. Still figuring out how they were going to feed everybody, they start working on making the pizzas, but when she tosses the dough, it sticks to the ceiling. That's when Eddie comes in, and Raven asks him for a favor. William's not happy that the clown hasn't made it yet, so they have Eddie dress up as Food Face the Clown. Food Face scares the crap out of Corey, and Eddie tries to get Corey to realize that it's him. But when he finally does, Andrea comes in and breaks up with Eddie for quite literally clowning around. When Corey realizes that Eddie is Food Face, he tells Eddie that he is scared of clowns, but Eddie could already tell by Corey's reaction to Food Face. Meanwhile, while trying to make the pizzas, Chelsea figured out a smart way to feed everyone. Mix all the little rolls of dough into one giant dough and make one giant pizza. Raven says, "That's a good idea, except we don't have a giant oven." So what do? William comes in to let Raven and Chelsea know that Food Face is disturbing, and he's not wrong. But Raven and Chelsea have their own problems trying to cook the giant pizza. As it turns out, William has done this before. As he is getting the right power source to cook the pizza, Raven and Chelsea dump the sauce onto the dough, but it's not enough and they aren't sure how they're going to spread it. This is the part that most of my friends remembered from this episode. Using the skis, Raven spreads the sauce around the pizza. Chelsea adds the toppings to the pizza so that Raven can spread them around, but Raven falls onto the dough. That gives her an idea. Spread the sauce around by making sauce angels. Finally, they get a power source and a connector. Using knitting needles from the knitting club and the energy from the motorcycles, they successfully manage to cook the pizza. Finally, they announce to the parties that the pizza is ready and that everyone can have one slice. Corey says, "We only get one slice," to which Raven says, "Trust me, that's all you're gonna need." And they bring out a humongous pizza slice. Everyone has one slice and they all love it as Victor makes it to the party. One member of the Knitting Society praises Raven for her service, but Raven gives Victor the praise because it's his restaurant. Like in Raven's vision, Victor praises Raven for getting everyone to the restaurant. Raven says, "Thanks for believing in my vision." But Victor says he never believed in her vision. It was Raven he believed in. So there we have it, 10 episodes of That's So Raven that I love. And it was so hard to pick because that show has so many great moments that have stuck with us for the last 20 years. You can watch these in all episodes of That's So Raven on Disney+. I have seen all of them, and they always bring back nice memories for me. Like I said in the intro, That's So Raven was a show that pretty much everybody I grew up with watched. And when I introduced it to friends who had never seen it before, they like it too. I'm glad that it's made an impression on people. And also the reboot, Raven's Home, is still going on. It's airing on Disney Channel, and I've noticed that recent episodes of the show have brought back lots of classic throwbacks to the original series, which is nice for anyone who watched the show growing up like me. So that's all I've got to say about That's So Raven. Maybe some of my favorite episodes are also some of your favorite episodes. Let me know some of your favorite That's So Raven moments in the comments below, whether I talked about it in this or not. And I'll see you in the future. Peace!